Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show.
Do you edit and chop this out?
Yeah. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people, it's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Everyone's a special guest. I'm joined by Alton Coston III. Now, I'll make sure I do the third because I'm another third. Shout out to those thirds out there. I met this young brother in a virtual space. Surprise, surprise. We have not met in person yet, but already our vibe is attuned. I mean, many factors is why our vibe is attuned, and we'll get into that later. But before we get into this show, Alton, give our listeners a little bit of an intro about yourself.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you for having me on the show, Philip. Really appreciate it. Like you just mentioned, my name is Alton Coston III. I'm a rising junior now. Just finished my last exam a couple of days ago, so finally a rising junior at the College of William and Mary, double majoring in public policy and Africana studies, and really big on community work, delving myself into the role and the true heart of the community, because I believe that's where you can always stay grounded. You can always remember where you come from, you know what I mean? Especially being at a place like William and Mary, where, you know, you see a lot of different things. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, in a very, I would say, on the outer skirts of the city. So if I was a couple of houses down, I would be going to city schools, but fortunately I was able to go to some of the better schools in the county. But given that I'm on the outer skirts, I've seen a lot of things that the city has to offer, and poverty, homelessness, drug addiction, etc. Mainly plaguing low income and marginalized communities. So going from a place like Richmond, Virginia, to a community like William and Mary was definitely interesting, to say the least. And even initially, man, I wasn't really big on W&M, honestly. W&M stands for William and Mary, but because it was just old, man. Really colonial, man. You know what I mean? Like old bricks and stuff that you got. You know, it's the second oldest institution of higher learning in the country behind Harvard. So, you know, you got Jefferson go there, Monroe. I mean, goodness gracious, who else went there? Jefferson, Monroe. Sure, Washington was there at some point. So you're really standing in the in the paths and in the shadows of revered women and men who have truly shaped the nation that we currently live in. So you get the good and the bad, and I'm sure that we'll touch on that a little bit later.
Yeah, well, that's quite remarkable. You know, I think they, out of the universities of Virginia, I think that, you know, the UVA and William and Mary are like the what we call the smart schools. And I went to the party school, which is JMU. But you know, neither here nor there. One thing that really impressed you, we met in a professional space, was that you spoke to diversity and inclusion to a bunch of employers. And when you, as a student, spoke to employers, I was just like, wow, this gentleman is quite the speaker, just carried himself with just a level of old spirit. Like, I was like, man, I'm talking to someone my age, and we vibed and we talked. And then come to find out you were already like a speaker. I was like, wow, doing TED Talks, all that. So, but we're going to get back to the policy part, because that's what you're studying. When did you, going back to it, when did you start thinking like government and systems was what you wanted to study, you know, back in school?
So, I mean, I think around like eighth and ninth grade is when I began to really start to think about my career. I don't know what happened in middle school, but one day I just woke up and was like, I just don't want to be average. I was one of those students who were, you know, quote unquote gifted, I guess you could say, whatever that means now, you know what I mean? But I was one of those kids who never really had to work for education. From kindergarten up until like 7th to 8th grade, it was sort of like I wasn't putting in effort, but I can get A's. You know what I mean? Like I can get the 4. But when I got to college, it was high school rather, it was a different story. But to my previous point, one day in middle school, man, I just looked at myself and was like, you aren't giving it all. Like, look at how much you could possibly do if you fully exhausted yourself each and every day of your 24 hours towards doing what you believe you want to do. You could possibly end up being the best or the greatest of all time. And 8th grade, 9th grade, I started to think more about the political scene and political action, political organizing, whatever the case may be. That's when I just started thinking about it, but I wasn't really in the political or socially mature mind state that I am now. So I idolized these people who were running these governmental systems. I idolized the presidency. I idolized the Supreme Court. I idolized the DAs, the correctional officers and things of that nature. And I thought that they were always good. Like, why do you want to work in the government? If you ask me in the 8th grade, it's because I want to do good. I want to help people. And that's where my passion sort of lied in 8th grade. Nevertheless, man, I swear, man, that first year of college, man, in high school, it was pretty much the same thing. I want to do government stuff because I wanted to do good. So middle school, high school, got to college, and I just had a socio-political awakening in terms of ambivalence towards the government. And I believe that one of my first few moments in that ambivalence and that awakening came when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X by Advocacy, the greatest book I've ever read, recommended to any person, any American, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever you are. I believe that this is a book that will allow you to have a little bit of awakening as well. And I read this part in the book, and I always used to hear like people hate the government. I was just like, why? Like, what is the reason why these people hate the government? The government is supposed to be good. You know, they give, Medicaid, Medicare, they have all these programs set up, for, individuals who are low income, et cetera. So what is the reason that these people hate the government? And when I was reading Malcolm X my freshman year, I began to understand why, because there was a moment in the book, and I'm very big on literature. So we'll probably explain a lot of that, and a lot of my anecdotes that I use, they will probably come from literature. But Malcolm X, he had a moment in the book where he was describing how the welfare state literally ripped and tore his family apart. Because what happened was his mother, was with a man, and her father ended up dying at some point. So his father passed away, and a new man had entered her life. And when the new man entered her life, he was with her for, a few nights or whatever the case may be, ended up leaving her. And that sort of thinking of, wow, I had this person, and he had brothers and sisters, Malcolm did. He had around 4 or 5 brothers and sisters. And the wife thought that the man was going to stay, ended up leaving. I believe he took her body as well. And yeah, that literally broke their family down. But the issue and the problem is that the welfare state was on their case. So each and every time that the welfare state would come in, because they lived in public housing, the welfare people would drop little bits and pieces of, just little, sly comments like, can you take care of these kids? Like, crazy, you're a crazy mad woman. Just little sly comments like that. And as the, mother whose husband just died, you have a new man enter your life who you believe could, help around with the 4 or 5 children, maybe potentially, who ends up leaving you. And now you have all these 4 or 5 kids still in the house who also are getting in trouble somewhat because they're troublemakers. One by one, the welfare state came in and said, you're not able to take care of these kids. So they took each individual out of the house. And the last one that was left was Malcolm. And I remember the last line of the book was something along the lines of, and there I was sitting in the middle of our floor, our housing being repossessed, and the government literally ripped up our family. And that's when I had an epiphany, and I was like, bro, I never thought about it that way. Yeah. In addition to a few other things, it really made me start to think and question a lot of the socio-political happenings around me.
Well, I mean, I think you spoke to, that was one. I think you really did a nice version. Like his father was murdered, straight up by the Klan.
I was just saying.
And additionally, like, you're right. Like, I think you spoke to the duality of everything, right? Nothing's absolutely good, nothing absolutely bad, but it was, I think you're right. Like and we could talk about this too, like in regards to the political sphere, or maybe even figures, we always put them on a pedestal, right? Like
pedestal, man.
The mayor of a town, he don't do any wrong, or DA or whatever. And then we're so rocked when we see that this person's a human being and they're involved in a scandal,
Right.
And so you spoke to that duality. I kind of want to be, interesting to you is that you did it all the way to college. Was there any like in between high school and college, were you starting to get politically involved? Like, were you on SGA or all these things? Because as I think I alluded to earlier, like you're a great speaker, like you're getting in front of people. Were you doing that kind of stuff in high school?
Yeah. So shout out to Team Excel. This organization that Mr. Michael Robinson, former fullback for the Seattle Seahawks and San Francisco 49ers, who was a graduate of Verona High School, go Blue Devils. Back down in Verona, he had a program called Team Excel and Excel to Excellence, which they gave me the opportunity to speak. They gave me the opportunity to speak to my experience, my story, and they had an annual dinner. And the dinners, and I love education. I love the classroom setting. I love it all. But quite honestly, I believe that I've learned more in meetings with high profile people, in rooms where you have aristocrats, lawyers, doctors, even some pastors, judges, etc. I've learned more about people and the systems in which we live by being in those rooms than any 1996 Pearson textbook could ever give me. So Mr. Robinson gave me the opportunity to speak at his annual celebrity waiter dinner, which they pretty much bring celebrities, former NFL players, current NFL players, etc. Russell Wilson, Rich Sherman, all those great guys, Marshawn Lynch as well. They bring all those guys to Richmond for a charity dinner to pretty much help promote and give funds to his organization, Team Excel. And that I was able to speak at a few of those events. And usually when you have those high profile individuals coming into Richmond, Virginia, everyone that you know is there from Virginia. Talking about governors, mayors, any person that you read in the newspaper is probably going to be there. And it was just very interesting being in those rooms. And it's still interesting to this day, because what I often say and what I often tell people now is, when you're ignorant, oftentimes you agree and say yes. Yes, I agree with you, etc. However, when you become a little bit more knowledgeable about the politics and how to politic, you know what I mean? Like, politicking it's an actual thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's an action, it's a verb, not just a noun. When you understand and begin to understand the initial and underlying meanings of things, you begin to have a very critical eye as to what you're seeing when you're in these meetings, and a critical ear as well. So um, yeah, that I was put in places by individuals who believed in me, who trusted me, who really believed that I was on the right path, um, to advancing towards whatever my dreams or goals were potentially or could have been. So yeah, that's what I was doing. I really wasn't doing too much in the SGA. I was vice president of what's it called? Goodness gracious, can't think of National Honor Society in high school. But in terms of like government, I did a little bit of canvassing for a few candidates before, that I probably wouldn't do now that I know a little bit more. But when you're young, and I tell this all the time to people, when you're young and ambitious, your ambition is often blinding. And at that point in my life, in high school, middle school, my ambition was blinding, because when you're young, you just want to throw yourself out there, bro. It's the more people you know, the more times you put your faces in front of people, the more times they'll be like, oh, I know this kid. This kid, he's a hard worker. I seen him at this event. I seen him speak here. I seen him do this. I seen him make this grade. So it wasn't until I got to college, like I said before, that I began to understand that, hey, like, my ambition, it was blinding me this entire time.
So you brought up a term. You said respectability politics. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's a new term. I want to hear your definition of it, because I think that could be central to some of the topics of this podcast. What does that mean? Like, that's a new term for me.
So respectability politics, to me, generally means when a marginalized group has to prescribe or confine or conform themselves to a standard set by society as to what professional and or good is. Okay. That is respectability politics in a short definition.
So are you saying like acculturation, or like someone? Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
So yeah, so it's sort of like, for example, and this is where I have my sociological awakening. And I guess this will more so explain it. I can explain it through a story, but I can either one. It's whatever. But it's more so the idea that in order for me, as a marginalized community, as a member of a marginalized community, I have to change who I am in order to fit the mold of what professionalism is. That's what respectability politics is, pretty much. So me, I have hair right now. With this COVID stuff going on, ain't nobody barbershops, bro. I remember I got my first haircut after the little COVID thing. It felt great. But for me, I've been growing my hair out a little bit because I don't want to conform to this. But even more so, say I have hair and I walk into a job interview. That person looks at my hair and the curling and the kinks and all that good stuff. I have 4C hair, for those who are listening. But if they look at my hair and say, that's not professional, you need to cut it off, shave it, clean cut, smooth, shirt and tie, that's who you need to be, that's what professional is. If I go and do that, I would be conforming to their standards of what professional is. And oftentimes, respectability politics are causing marginalized groups to give up their comfortability to ensure the comfortability of others. And I don't believe that we should do that anymore. And that's what respectability politics is in a short sense.
So is that are you talking about, so I mean, I love that term. I was thinking more like, and I think I feel it like a quote unquote acculturation or appropriation in regards to fit into a system. How do you feel like this fits into the politics? Like, do you mean like politics as in regards to being a, let's say you're a government official? Do you feel like is that part of that, or are you saying that we're playing these politics in all systems? like education, work?
Yeah.
What is it, what was, just for defining sake, when you say the word politics, are you just saying to navigate the act, like that action of politics rather than just the noun of, or the actual...
I mean, I believe that the definition was first used strictly for politics, as in governmental systems.
Yep.
However, the term has begun to widely spread and because so expansive to the point where it could cover education. It can cover finance. It can cover any agency, organization, or field or profession in which marginalized communities are not at the leadership level. And basically the idea is that you have to do certain things, sacrifice pieces of yourself, change your African-American vernacular, also known as Ebonics. You can't use your Ebonics in a meeting because that's not quote unquote professional. You can't do X, Y, and Z because that's not professional. And that's the way you get ahead. So basically it's the idea that in order to get ahead and advance in a company, organization, etc., you must knock off a little bit who you are as a member of a marginalized group. In terms of myself, as a Black man, I must knock off some of the things that are culturally important to myself in order to advance. That's sort of the idea, the concept.
Yeah, but I get that. And, I feel that real hard, but we're also in a system like,
yeah,
I don't know. And there's no answer to this. It's just dialogue. It's like, okay, but you're at a flagship institution. I work in higher ed. For us, we are navigating the system. I'm just right now, I'm not going to, quit my job. I got to do the best I can with what I got. So I don't know. I don't know where else. I think I was going on a ramble, of having to navigate that balance and
how do you do it?
I can't go full tilt. You know what I'm saying? I can't go full tilt. I just say, you know what I'm saying, like that too. Like that comes out of
exactly.
Needs,
exactly my point.
Yeah, like I can't go full tilt, and because I have to navigate the system to put food on my table. I have to navigate this system to support people. Like for instance, I love to support young Black males, but I won't have a platform unless I got a job.
Right.
So therefore, I have to navigate this system to, I wouldn't say change it, but because I don't think I'm going to change the whole system of education, but I can navigate it so that I can help, if that makes sense. So for me, how do you, you're a young man, like you're not going to completely, you got to, I'm saying this right now on the podcast, you're going to have to graduate. You got to get good grades. You can't say, this is not my learning style. This system don't work. I'm not going to turn this paper in. You have to turn those papers in.
Exactly.
Right. So how do you balance the navigation of the system as it is, but also, you're right, staying true to yourself?
So I've had conversations with many Black professionals about this very same topic. And the conversation always goes to this point. Man, I'm 40 something years old and dude, I'm still learning how to do it. So there's no one way, shape, or form to navigate it because it's a very sticky situation. And to this point, I'm gonna go with that story that I told you. And this is where I've really had my awakening moment. I was given the opportunity to give a speech at William & Mary's annual Charter Day dinner, which is a very prestigious dinner at WNR. And I was, for context, I was given a scholarship award to attend the College of William & Mary. And given my community and my background of me coming from Richmond, Virginia, low income family, et cetera, things of that nature, very God-led, faith-driven. They wanted me to speak in front of this Charter Day ceremony. And it was for sort of like their advertising section of the program, their fundraising section of the program. They're part of the program where it was, hey, we have a lot of money in the room. Millions, probably billions of dollars in this one room. We're going to get some kids up here and they're going to tell you their stories and we're going to get them hopefully that stories impact you so that you can donate or give to the college or whatever. And my high school speech, it went viral because I talked about my faith in God and how I've been through a lot, going through depression, because I simply could not afford to go to school. I could not afford to go to college, despite me making the amazing grades that I made. My family and I, we simply did not have the funds to go in. When Mary came in and said, hey, we'll give you a scholarship. After we prayed, we literally prayed, sat down in the living room, held hands together, and my dad said, Lord, we give the situation to you. You know that Trey is going through, my nickname is Trey. You know that Trey is going through depression. You know that he went to school. It's his will, it's his heart, it's what he wants to do. So give him an opportunity. And a couple of weeks down the road, get a letter in the mail from William & Mary saying that I not only got accepted, but they would pay for the full cost of my classes. So I was heading to school, and that thing went viral. Went viral, William & Mary community side, loved it, etc. So people sort of knew who I was a little bit before I came to campus. At the Charter Day dinner, I was given an opportunity to speak. And these people, man, very aristocratic in their movements. I was sitting at the table with dignitaries and things of that nature from the school, alum as well. Millions of dollars, old money. These people had bread. Mind you, I come from Richmond, Virginia. So to be in a room with all this money, man, it's a concept of double consciousness. Is what W.B. Du Bois discussed. And for those that don't know what double consciousness is essentially the understanding and concept that marginalized communities, specifically African Americans, often have two worlds that they're living in at once. And they're viewing themselves through the white man's or white person's lens, and they're also viewing themselves through their own lens. So because of that, you're living in two worlds, both your world at home and your professional world, and the white world that you're working in, corporate America, et cetera, and you're also living in your home world, your African American community, things of that nature. And it's very conflicting because you're sort of belonging to two worlds, and because of that, you're never belonging to one or the other will be. So for myself, being in that room was very conflicting because it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? So,
it reminds me of that time, like straight up this, like in very simple terms. Have you ever just walked into a room and shook a guy's hand and then see a guy and you tap him up? like, I don't know. I wanted to say that the whole time, but I've done that before. Like literally, I was like, "Hello, Philip Wilkerson, nice to meet you. Oh, what's good, bro? What's good?" And
yeah,
I was like,
bro,
whoa.
What's good, bro? For real.
And yeah, okay. But that was just like the overall experience. Like if I could just really simplify it, it could have just been like that, like that.
That's it.
Like where that one Key and Peele skit, shake hands, tap someone up, shake hands. You're right. You have to navigate it. But go back. I want to talk about, like you're in this room full of people.
So get to the stage, whatever the case would be. These people didn't know. In fact, before I get to the stage, I was in the room by myself, etc. People enter. These people did not notice me at all. Fly on the wall. No one came to talk to me. No one came to speak to me. No one knew my name. I was as foreign to them as they were to me. When we sat down, I got to sit at the table with a few of them, and they began to know who I was. But prior to that, no one in that room could honestly care who I was. I was honestly just some kid. Some kid with nappy hair who has a shirt and tie on, bow tie, black bow tie. It was a all black and white affair. But what is he doing here? But when I got on that stage and I saw the syntax of my sentences, the way that I could formulate words together, string sentences along, the beauty and the passion in which, the fervor in which I spoke, describing my situation, describing the homelessness, the poverty that I've seen. describing the things that have happened to my family personally. Standing ovation. So they were clapping and giving a standing ovation to experiences that they can never relate to. So were you clapping because you love my story? Like, because you learned something from it? Or were you clapping because you gave this nappy-headed Black boy an opportunity to speak? And that right there did a lot for me, because up until that point, my ambition was blinding. But after that point, as a result of that very point, I'm no longer ignorant. I can no longer be tokenized. I can no longer be mistreated, led astray, bamboozled, as X said, Stephen A. Smith. I could no longer be any of those things, because now it's about the why. Why are you giving me this opportunity? Is it because I can speak eloquently? Is it because I am well dressed? Because I can formulate sentences beautifully? Like what the why? Not, okay, yes, thank you for the opportunity, but why me for the opportunity? You know what I mean? The implicit, the underlying tones of opportunities now are more important to me than the opportunity itself.
When that happened, when that speech happened and people were standing for you, did you feel like pride or shame or used? Or what did you feel? And I mean, coming back and reflecting in that moment, or did it, or like you was like, yo, this feels good, and then you went back and reflected on later, and that's when it dawned on you?
So I felt great, because
Yeah,
after that, I got some contact. I got some contacts.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
networking after that. Look, because look,
yeah,
before
yeah,
I was a fly on the wall.
yeah,
Now I was I was
yeah.
I was
Well,
flies
John,
on, you know
nice
what
to
I
meet you.
mean?
Yeah, nice
Yeah,
to
you
meet
know what I
you.
mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get
I was
you.
flies on, you know what I mean? Flies on, I can't say the, but you know what I mean when I
Yeah,
say that. So I was networking after that, but it wasn't until I read The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison when I began to reflect, because there were so many paradoxes between the invisible man and myself, because he felt invisible, because no one saw him. No one regarded his life to the point where he saw himself as invisible. Similarly, in the initial part of the dinner, I was invincible. The guy in The Invisible Man, he never says his name, but the guy in The Invisible Man, the main character, the narrator, he was, and he was on scholarship, and it was by a white alum. I'm on scholarship by a white alum. He was 19 years old. At the time of the speech, I was 19 years old. He went to HBCU. I go to a PWI, but he was in college. I was in college. He's 19. I'm 19. He got a scholarship. I got a scholarship. And the moment in the book, because to give it even more context, when he received the scholarship from the white alum, it was after he had to fight for it. He literally had to go through a boxing match to get that scholarship. So the people, the white dignitaries of the town that he was in, made these boys literally fight for a scholarship. So all these Black boys are literally fighting for that one opportunity to go to school. He ended up winning, or whatever the case may be, or giving a speech, rather. It was a speech. He ended up giving a speech. And it was like, okay, this guy, he's pretty gifted. Let's give him a scholarship. They get him the scholarship after he was all bloodied up or whatever the case may be, because he just had finished fighting. And he wasn't there to fight, but he was there to give a speech. But they tricked him into fighting because they wanted entertainment before they gave him the money. So they made him fight. bloodied up and whatever the case may be, he started giving a speech. He started talking about equality and equity for Black and brown people. Because this was in the, I can't remember, the 60s. I don't remember, 40s through 60s, something like that. And one of the white alums was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on now, good brother. Like, you were sounding real good until you mentioned that E word, brother. So
Yeah, take the money.
after that, yeah, he was like, whoa, yeah, like, hold on now, you're going a little too far. Like, we get it. We love the way you sound, but you mentioned that E word. But anyways, they gave him a scholarship after that, after he gave a speech or whatever. He was like, granddad, he went to his granddad's house or his dad's house, whatever the case may be. Granddad said, oh, fantastic, you got a scholarship or whatever. He was like, all right, you got your scholarship letter. Let me give you another one. He gave the kid the letter. And the letter said, keep that N-word boy running. And so for me, I was like, have I been kept running?
Or it's also like, to win at what cost? To advance, like you think to advance is access, but at what cost to yourself? Like he got beat up, he got in a fight, he had to go through a fight. And so like, you're like, I want to advance my life, but there's going to be at sense, I think I'm just going off the top of how I interpret it, like to advance, he was like, yo, I need to go to school, I'm gonna give this speech, but at the cost of him getting hurt and punched in the face and life coming at him. And that, that's just crazy. Like, I don't know, man, that kind of triggering. I don't know, just thought about it right now. And so, yeah, wow, at what cost to win, to win as a Black man, but at what cost?
For me, man, that really did something to me, bro, because it was like, he was excited about that scholarship, bro. He was like, granddad, like, look, like, yes, I got it. Granddad came in and said, look, man, that's cool, but read this. Keep that N-word boy running. And it's a paradox because later in the book, he was kicked out of that very college that he got the scholarship to. And it was at a HBCU, sort of similar in remnants of Tuskegee University, Booker T. Washington sort of philosophy there, hard work, manual labor. And the president there kicked him out because he showed a white alum that he was supposed to be like showing around town, giving ride arounds, et cetera. He showed the white alum to a very run down African-American Black part of the community. And the president of the college was very upset because he trusted him to not do that. However, it wasn't because he wanted to, but he had some stuff going on. The dignitary wanted water and stuff like that, so he had to take him. Car broke down, etc. But anyways, the president said, you do not show an outsider what's happening within our own community. You're breaking the trust as a Black man by showing a white person what's going on in our own community. Because the white person, the white dignitary or alum, was like, wow, like, look at these people like animals. Like he were looking at the community as if it was a zoo. And the president was not having it. So the president was really upset with them, kicked them out of the school, sent them up to New York with 7 letters, was like, look, man, you can come back in 7 months after I have seen that you have changed. So come back in 7 months, give the kids 7 letters, puts them on a train, sends them up to New York. Kid gets to New York, goes to 6 of the 7 places, and the letters were sent to alums of the college or people who donated to the college so they can give them work or whatever for the next 7 months. Gets to New York, goes to 6 of the 7 places. Here's nothing from any of them. Goes to the 7th place. On his last letter, kid doesn't have a job. He's in New York. He's trying to get back, get these 7 months through, wipe his hands clean. Kid gets in the 7th place and he says, hey, I'm here for so-and-so. Let's call him Mr. John. I'm here for Mr. John. I had this letter from Mr. Kendrick, who's called the president of the college, Kendrick, from Mr. Kendrick saying that I need work, etc. Secretary says, okay, are you sure you want to meet Mr. John? the narrator says, yeah, like Mr. Kendrick sent me here. Like I'm here to meet Mr. John. Like what the secretary was white as well. He was like, I don't really think that you want to do that. That's what the secretary said to him. He said, man, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to hold me back, bro? Like, I'm just a college student, I'm a black man. I'm just trying to work, get these 7 months done so I can go back. The secretary says, all right, man, give me the letter. Takes the letter, goes back to the back part of the office, comes back out, letter's open or whatever. The kid said, the secretary says to the kid, did you read this letter? He was like, no, because he was instructed not to. Got that part. The kid was not instructed to open any of the letters on his way to New York. So the kid says, no, man, like I was told not to open any of the letters. So I didn't. That's what Mr. Kendrick told me. The secretary says, you do not want to meet Mr. John. Once again, I just believe that I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to help your journey or your destiny. The kid said in response to that, it seems as though everyone already has a destination for me without me having a say in it. The secretary says, okay, man, Mr. John is my dad. And the letter reads, Dear Mr. John, this young man is an outcast of the college who has done terrible things. He would no longer be expected nor accepted here at our university anymore. Please give him work and keep his expectation and hope high that he will be able to return here in 7 months. So, going back to the letter that his granddad gave him, they kept that N-word boy running. And for me, that did a lot for my mental.
But the saddest part was that even someone that was supposed to be a supporter, the president, set him up. So the system set him up, or a trusted person set him up. And then I think one of the things you said is, I feel like someone's always holding me back. And he was just trying to make it through and doing whatever it takes. Fighting, he thought he was going to advance, and he fought hard. He got to the school. It's like, at what point? I don't know. I can't even process right now. I need to read that. Bro. I need to read that myself. So, with that being said, then, but we in this system, and we are working hard. I think at that point, the guy could have said, "Forget all this," and ran away or jumped out a window or something, like something. But I don't think, I wouldn't quit. I don't know. Like, when you think of that though, then what is the balance between seeing a machine or cog in the wheel and saying, okay, I'm just gonna like, you take away all your agency, but you still have agency. I don't know how you know what I'm saying? Like, in regards to all this, you still have agency, you still have autonomy, you still have autonomy. You still have within you actions you can take. Like you say, you can rip up the letter and try something else. So how do you balance that?
I think for myself, and this is where I sort of stand, it's sort of problematic, and it's sort of fearing. It's fearful. I'm oftentimes fearful, and not necessarily fearful. I'm not going to say that, but oftentimes I'm very critical and have an laser eye focus as to what's occurring around me, because oftentimes when you are a person that is speaking truth to power, y'all seen what the FBI did, COINTELPRO. They took you out, man. They don't play that. They don't play you speaking truth to power. They don't play that speaking out about what's really going on in these governmental agencies, these governmental bureaucracies that occur. You seen what happened to MLK, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton. Shoot, the list can go on and on and on. They shunned Shirley Chisholm. She was like, she was for the people. They shunned her from the DNC, honestly, they didn't take her serious, even though she was speaking truth to power. When you speak truth to power, you will have a collective behind you that is of the very people that those in the government are willing to serve. However, you have a bullseye on your back because now you're putting tension on that same bureaucracy. So for myself, and this is where the respectability politics things come in, because now this is where you'd be like, okay, how do I navigate this system to the point where I can be effective, yet not be murdered, yet still get things done? And I believe, unfortunately, he passed away. One person that is a great example of who is not, respectability politics is Malcolm X. Malcolm X stated unapologetically, of course, he was misogynistic at times. When he was with the Nation of Islam, he was very white devilish or whatever the case may be. He was very far out there. But once he came to went to the Mecca or whatever the case may be, and he came back, he began to turn the issue from a race issue into a sort of a class issue. And he started talking about all oppressed peoples and not just those who look like him. And when he began to do that, he was already dangerous before. He was already powerful before. But it was when he began to get and increase the number of individuals who were behind him. It's where the FBI was like, oh no, we got to do something about this kid. Because he's telling it how it really is. He'll call out liberals who pose to be our friends and Republicans who are straight up not trying to be their friends. He'll call out any and everything that's happening in the government, how even though, you had the 13th Amendment passing, right after that, you had Jim Crow come into effect. So you gave us this, but then you go and implement this. He would call you out on it. Like he's not gonna be co-opted. And I think oftentimes for Black professionals, it's very difficult because sometimes you get co-opted without even knowing. You get tokenized without even truly knowing the token. And Malcolm was the example, and he exemplified, I will not conform to what you want me to conform to what you want me to do, what you want me to say. I will not be a yes man. I'm going to challenge you to make this country better. We can't make this better without tension. So I'm going to apply this tension on you until you change these systems to support our people. And oftentimes people say he was violent. He wasn't necessarily violent, man. People get that wrong all the time. It wasn't that he was violent. It was just, he believed if a government is not giving a certain group of people the rights and their God-given rights of freedom, equality, and justice, because the color of their skin is deemed wrong or inferior, they will not protect their property, will not protect their bodies in the court of law, will not protect them whatsoever, then those people should be able to resort to any means necessary to bring about the rights that that government has failed to give them. And he says, if white people were in the same position, they would do the exact same thing. Because freedom nor equality is ever given voluntarily to the oppressed or by the oppressor. They had to be demanded by the oppressed. All politics is about power, bro. And if you got power, we've seen it happen, bro. January 6th, Trump said, move left, jump high, they jumped. It's all about power, bro. So that he's just a great example, Mr. X, of how to not be co-opted. Unfortunately, he passed away, which is something you have to think about if you're going to get into this field to start speaking truth to power, because people don't like that, but it's it's a hard hill to climb, man.
Yeah, I know, man. I don't know. I can't, I don't know. As I see that, I don't know. I kind of want to do a part two, man. This is too much. So what we'll do is
Yeah, this is deep, bro.
we'll schedule a part two. We have to really definitely schedule a part two because I definitely try to keep my episodes to this time, but I definitely want to go to the second part. So what we'll do is we'll schedule another one and we'll get on there because I remember where we are. We'll call it. Actually, I want to change this to Invisible Man. So we're gonna change it. That's the title of this. And we'll call it 1 and 2. So this is definitely part 1.
Say less, man. Say less.
So, definitely, I kind of left as a teaser because we definitely need to have some extra part, maybe how COVID has affected us, how you still getting some of your career aspirations. I feel like I didn't even get a chance to touch on that. So we're gonna go to our part of the show called Shot for Shot. It's the most random pivot. You get to ask me anything random. I get to ask you anything random. You want to go first? I'll go first.
All right. Anything random.
Yeah, I go first and you go first.
Let's go with you. You can go first, man.
All right.
For sure, man.
I was definitely gonna find a way to throw in alpha. So that was gonna be mine today. So of all the fraternities that you could join, all of them, what was attractive for you to see the light of alpha and
no
join?
Brainer.
And your why. What was your why for that?
No brainer. I mean, do we really have to? Shouldn't be discussion.
That's my question. I mean,
say
okay, you want okay? You say no. Okay, I'll do a different one then.
No. I got you. I'll answer because the viewers may not know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Thurgood Marshall, W.B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass. We ain't even get to talk about Mr. Douglass. My gosh. Who else? Donnie Hathaway. Did I say Dr. King? Did I mention him yet? I don't think I mentioned him. Goodness gracious.
You mentioned him as in your story. You mentioned him in your story, but you didn't.
Dr. King. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Good. I mean, bro, like it was a no-brainer, man. These are the men that I look up to, I revere. They've done extraordinary things, not only for the United States, but these people I look up to over the world. There was no ifs, ands, or buts as to which organization I would join, because I want to stand on their shoulders and echo some of the work that they've done. Of course, I want to do it in my own way. And that can be definitely something that we could discuss in the next episode, because the art of originality is very difficult for Black professionals, because oftentimes if you're a Black man in a suit and tie, you're compared to MLK, Obama, or somebody else. I'm trying to tell you, you're one of 3 people. So the art of originality is something that I'm trying to navigate right now. But look, man, these guys, man, they've done amazing things, man. And it was a no-brainer as to the prestige and the servant spirit of these guys. These guys wanted to help humanity. So for myself, it was a no-brainer.
I love it. I was about to say, I'll throw in there randomly Lionel Richie. But the only reason
Lionel Richie.
And the only reason why I throw Lionel Richie is, shout out to Jeannie. This is I grew up. I had a nanny growing up, and she's from England. And one of her favorite musicians is Lionel Richie. So whenever someone asked me, like, name a famous musician, it would be the first person that popped in my head because of her.
Yeah, sure.
And then
Brother Ellington, man.
Yeah, so when I got into Alpha, I had a picture, and I was like, "Look, I'm gonna say fraternity is Lionel Richie." That was the one I don't know.
Nah, for real.
That was it.
That's your brother, man. That's
your brother Lionel Richie.
And brother, man. We got brother Duke Ellington too, man.
Oh snap!
We ain't even mention them. It's too many to name, bro. I don't want to leave out nobody great. That's what I'm saying, bro. We got to stop. We can keep this going over hours. All right, man. Let me see. My question for you, man. What was your favorite video game growing up and why?
Okay. So I had the whole system. I think, I graduated through. I'm old, if you don't know. So I even had the original Nintendo, then the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
But for me, I think the system that was like the epitome of my childhood, like where I knew video games and was old enough to appreciate it, was the N64. So Nintendo 64. And so I don't know. I mean, there's so many games that I could say out of that system that was the ones I rock with. But I think one now, and I'm just doing first association. The first thing that popped in my head, was Zelda, Orchid of Time. I don't know how you pronounce it. Orchid of Time. That was the one I was like, wow, this is dope. And GoldenEye. I was about to say GoldenEye. GoldenEye was like the original, first person shooter, just walking around at the maps and you knew what you were doing. But I was gonna say in general, not just the video game, but I was gonna take the system that changed it for me was the N64, which now I need to go back. I play the games on the Nintendo Switch. You can get the old school games. Like I have the Mario on there and all that, but I think I want to go get a system now just to play it again.
Hey man,
actually get into cartridges. But that was
one. Man, you better get that, resell it, bro. That thing gonna go for crazy bucks in a few years, man.
So which one? I'm about to ask them. What one's for you then? I get that.
Man, honestly, bro. All right. So when you're in college, bro, I guess I can go back to high school. But when you're in college and you're like diligent in your studies, bro, there's no time for gaming. Like if I'm like my roommate and I freshman year, bro, I was like, "Do you watch TV?" He was like, "Nah, man, I don't either." Didn't have a TV in our room. Literally, no TV.
Well, you can look at YouTube.
I love YouTube. Now, YouTube I love. Like I don't need TV because I have YouTube.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or Netflix.
You can catch any. I was going to say, I don't even watch Netflix, bro. I don't watch TV if I'm gonna keep it a bad. I don't watch TV. Like I watch the news from time to time so I can stay informed what's going on or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, not even really though, because when you're in college, bro, like and you're a public policy major, you're gonna be informed of what's going on. Like you're gonna be, it's gonna be a class you're taking, etc. But yeah, bro, TV, man, it's no time, bro. Like you got 24 hours, right? If you want an adequate amount of sleep, that's 8. You know what I mean? So that leaves you with a little bit less, 16? I'm not good at math. So that leaves you with 16. 16, you're in classes. Let's say your classes take around 5 hours a day. That's 11 hours left. You want to go to the library, study, get your work done. Work take 3 to 4 hours, maybe 5. So it's 11 minus 5. That's, goodness gracious, I suck at math. 11 minus 5. Anyways, you have that. And then that, you can chill for a little bit, but you might want to go study with friends or something like that. You study by yourself, get your work done, or you got to eat. It's just, it's only 24 hours, bro. And like,
what about the COVID time?
COVID time. Yeah, COVID. I mean, even with COVID though, I mean, I feel like COVID. Yeah, I mean, even for COVID, man, I've been a lot with my family, bro. Like, been chilling a lot with my family because when you're in college, bro, you don't have that. I've been able to spend an entire year with my family, do things around the house, etc., help around. So internships as well.
So if you're doing an internship, so TV's still low. Wow.
Yeah, man. Because I mean, what is?
You're not missing much. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, what is TV? TV is not really gonna. I think I'm more into conversations like you and I are having right now. I'm happy and I'm having fun. You know what I mean? Like I'm happy or reading. I love reading as well.
I like podcasting. I like listening to music.
Podcasting is great.
And I like, and like I said, as a substitute to TV, I'd only watch a sporting event with other people. And most times it's on the TV, but I'm talking the whole time watching the game. So, I agree. I mean, me and my wife have at least one show that we watch together. But literally most times we're like just talking the whole time during the I'm talking the whole time, having like, what's the day like? And she's like, I'm watching the show.
Nah, for real, for real, exactly.
I get that.
So you get me, man. You get me,
it.
Man. But I would say though, PlayStation. Anything PlayStation though.
The original PlayStation 2?
No, I had a PS2. I remember that, bro. When they used to load up with the oh my gosh.
Yeah.
PS2 and PS3.
That's crazy. Well, this is, I'm gonna have to get you on the podcast again. I definitely
Go ahead, Tim.
now have to do a part two, because I think part one was just a long teaser. We didn't really get
I was just say, yeah,
half the
man.
questions, but I definitely we'll have to get you on the part two. We'll chop it up, and we'll just call it the same. We'll leave off where we'll start where we left off, because there's so much that you had to share. But I really, honestly, I think it was just great that we had a lot to think about, and I think I have even a different pivoted of questions. But before we get off and release, try to schedule a part two. This is the show, part of the show called Shout Outs and Plugs. So please shout out anyone you want to show love to, anyone. And then plugs. Plugs are anything that you're working on or ways that the listeners can connect with you, at which I'll put in the show notes. So the stage is set. Shout outs and plugs.
Shout outs, man. Definitely shout out to Jonathan Mayo, Michael Robinson for their Excel to Excellence program, the Real Mike Rob report, Team Excel as well, giving me the opportunity in high school. Shout out to Verona High School as well, man. I love Verona, great school. A lot of my growth occurred in Verona. Shout out to the William & Mary Center for Student Diversity. Love you guys. Guys definitely providing a platform for myself and all those who go to the William & Mary, who are part of the marginalized groups to make themselves heard. Shout out to my mom and dad, man. Shout out to my mom and dad, man. I spent the day with them today, so love them more than they can imagine. Shout out to God. He's the reason I'm here, giving me the talent, pertinacity, ambition to do this work. And Jackie Robinson Foundation, definitely shout out to them, man. Without them, I wouldn't be able to go to school. And shout out to you, man. Shout out to Philip Wilkerson, man. Great guy, man. Thank you for inviting me on the show. I really appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to part two, man. I'm definitely glad that we were able to connect, man. Great guy, amazing guy, great podcast, love it. Plugs, you can follow me on Twitter at A Coston III. I'm a third, so it's A Coston III. Instagram at A Coston 3, the number 3. Facebook, my name, Alton Coston III. I think that's pretty much all of them. LinkedIn, please do LinkedIn. Please, I was going to say, please LinkedIn. That's the main one I use. So just my name, bro. Just my name. What else can I plug? Right now, I'm working on a lot of career development stuff before I head to DC in a couple of weeks for the internship that I have for this summer with the Institute for Responsible Citizenship. So plugging Dr. William Keys, in his program. Can't wait to be up there. I'm going to be up there and heading to New York for a couple of days, taking an economic and constitutional principle class. So just a lot of knowledge going on, a lot of learning going on this summer, man, as well as doing a 30-page paper on the art of originality, which is why I said something that I'm currently going through. Utilizing Black literature and comparing the lives of those civil rights and socio-political leaders and things of that nature, and comparing their lives and their upbringing, their socio-political development to my own, because I'm seeing a lot of semblances between theirs and mine. So that's what I'm working on now. Probably going to put into a book, but yeah, those are a few plugs.
I love it. And definitely I just wrote them all down. So please follow this young gentleman. I'm definitely just randomly going to throw his TED Talk in there too, in the show notes.
Oh, shoot,
yeah, I'll throw that in there. You just get all these things in the show notes, but I really appreciate you taking your time to be on this podcast. This is a rock star gentleman right here. He's rocket shipping up. And this is honestly, I mean, I'm gonna go on my little tangent before I end the show, but through the fraternity, one of the things that has been one of the biggest blessings for me is not the people that I'm joining the ranks of, all these names, yada yada, Martin Luther King, all that. It's the young leaders that I get to meet.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, dang, I wish I was like this at 19, 20 years old. And so it just gives me a lot of inspiration to see like, wow, you know, there's going to be young people coming up that are great leaders, and maybe in their book of their lives, right? The book of your life. If I get one paragraph in that,
look, man, look, a
sentence,
I say that to everybody else, man.
In a sentence, it makes me feel good about myself, because that's the part that's really brought me in. It's like, I'm going to get old and there's going to be new people coming in, and I get to see them grow. And I'm like, dang, I remember that time that kid was on my podcast and now he's on a stage doing big things. Well, I'm just randomly, you know, clout chase and tag him and tag him in a bunch of stuff. But that's been one of the things. So you're gonna keep on doing big things. Celebrate you. Please follow him. Please follow his journey. Please share this episode with your family and friends. This has been a great episode of Positive Philter. Please continue to share positivity, and we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.